Today is March 8th. It's the 67th day of the year, and this is the On This Day Podcast. And welcome to the first episode of On This Day Podcast 2.0, the new edition. Stop it. Cut it out. You will find On This Day Podcast 2.0 to be pretty familiar. It's not going to be that different from the show that you know and love. It's just going to be a little more in-depth on one particular topic, either a new topic or a topic that maybe we touched on last year and we're going to take a deeper dive on, such as today's topic, the disappearance of Flight 370. At 12:41 a.m. local time on this day in 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 takes off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. The plane is due to arrive in Beijing, China 5.5 hours later. About 40 minutes after takeoff, Flight 370 goes silent, and the Boeing 777 and all 239 people on board disappear, never to be seen or heard from again. Flight 370 is on a pretty straight northeastern heading from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Communications between the pilots and air traffic control are routine, as is the automated communication from the plane. An automated data transmission by the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System on board, known as the ACARS, is sent automatically at 1:07 a.m. The bundle of data transmitted by ACARS consists of flight status information such as position and remaining fuel. The ACARS system transmits like clockwork every half hour. 1 minute later, at 1:08 a.m., the flight crew confirms they've reached their cruising altitude of 35,000 feet.
370 maintaining level 350.
About 10 minutes later, at 1:19 a.m., Lumpur Radar, the Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control, radios to the crew, instructing them to contact air traffic control in Vietnam.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
One of the flight crew inside the cockpit on Flight 370 responds.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
This is the last radio transmission from Flight 370. 2 minutes later, air traffic control in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, who are expecting 370 to check in, note the flight crew's failure to do so. At the same time, 370 disappears from Lumpur radar. At some point, the ACARS system is shut off. The next expected transmission at 1:37 a.m. is never received. The plane's flight path for the next hour is tracked by military radar, the plane turning slightly right and then making a left-hand turn, a U-turn, heading southwest back over the Malaysia-Thailand border. 370 then turns northwest over the island of Penang, just off the south coast of Malaysia, before disappearing from military radar when it leaves radar range over the Strait of Malacca on a heading towards the Bay of Bengal and India in the early morning hours on this day in 2014. In the days and weeks and months that follow, everyone and their brother has a theory about what happened to the plane and where it might be. A multinational joint investigation team begins a massive search, trying to narrow down the most likely final location where the plane may have crashed. That is, if it crashed at all. Some people theorize that the plane was hijacked and flown to some terrorist-friendly nation or to a CIA black site. Others believe it was an accidental shoot-down like Iran Air Flight 655 in 1988. 2 passengers are traveling on fake passports, but they're eliminated as possible terrorists. One of the prevailing theories is pilot suicide. Some point to the pilot's home flight simulator as evidence when it's revealed that at some point prior to the disappearance of 370, the pilot programs into his simulator a course due south to the southern Indian Ocean. And these are just a few of dozens of theories that are proposed. The what and why is unknown, as is the where. Amateur internet sleuths pore over publicly available satellite imagery looking for any sign of the missing plane. A company called Tomnod posts the imagery to crowdsource the search of thousands of satellite photographs. 8 million users pore over images covering 14,000 square miles of ocean, and they find 650,000 objects of interest. Among the digital detectives is Courtney Love, who tweets an image she believes is the plane and an oil slick off the coast of Malaysia in the Strait of Malacca. Many eyewitnesses claim to have seen the plane. Fishermen in the waters near the Malaysia-Thailand border see an unusually low-flying plane. A woman on a yacht sailing between India and Thailand in the Bay of Bengal, 900 miles northwest of Malaysia, says she sees a plane on fire in the night sky. A man on an oil rig in the waters off Vietnam, 900 miles northeast of Malaysia, also sees a flaming plane in the sky. And people in the Maldives, 2,000 miles due west of Malaysia, hear a thunderous noise, and when they step outside of their homes to see what it is, they claim they see the plane, white with red stripes, flying low over the island. All of these reports are dismissed, and the search for Flight 370 is focused instead 2,500 miles south of Malaysia, in the southern Indian Ocean off the west coast of Australia. A British company called Inmarsat says they've tracked the flight to this region. They analyze satellite data they've collected of pings made to and from the plane on an hourly basis, called handshakes. They calculate the time it takes the ping to return from the plane to determine the plane's distance from the satellite, giving them a general idea of the plane's heading and most likely location when it makes its final handshake at 8:11 a.m. Their analysis pinpoints that final handshake occurring somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean in an area of over 40,000 square miles. Inmarsat has never done this kind of analysis before. They are literally reverse engineering a navigation system from a communication system. There's no way to verify their calculations. There's no way to confirm that this method of analysis actually works, other than to find the plane. Nonetheless, a massive surface and underwater search is undertaken in the southern Indian Ocean. To date, no debris has been found in this location, and all investigators come up with are a bunch of false leads. Signals thought to be coming from the plane's black boxes that turn out to be coming from the search equipment itself. Possible plane debris that turns out to be floating trash. And oil slicks that test negative for jet fuel. In July of 2015, debris is recovered on Reunion Island, a French territory east of Madagascar, and 3,500 miles northwest of the search area. The largest object found on Reunion Island is a flaperon from a Boeing 777, and the serial numbers are confirmed as matching those of Flight 370. An object believed to be the flight's horizontal stabilizer is found in the Mozambique Channel between Africa and Madagascar, and a wing flap is found on Pemba Island off the coast of Tanzania. Oceanographers determine it's possible the debris was carried by ocean currents from the southern Indian Ocean to the east coast of Africa. But like with every other Flight 370 hypothesis, no one can be certain. In late 2016, investigators review the satellite data and determine that they may have been searching in the wrong place all this time. They want to move the search 200 miles to the north. But the governments of Malaysia, Australia, and China, who are funding the search efforts, decide there's not enough credible evidence to keep the cash flowing. The search for Flight 370 officially ends in January 2017, after scouring more than 46,000 square miles of ocean at the cost of $160 million. The disappearance of Malaysia Flight 370 on this day in 2014 remains a complete mystery. A simple yet contested theory is that there's a cockpit fire, and the pilot U-turns to head to the nearest airport for an emergency landing, heading south and turning right over the island of Penang to make for the 13,000-foot runway just north of there on Pulau Langkawi. Or perhaps that final right turn is the pilot taking one last look at his home island of Penang before flying into oblivion. There are 298 days left in the year,